dreaded flag, a vengeful sea. Be careful what you say. There's always someone listening. The Dutchman tossed on the sea. I swore and the devil heard me. Now we're doomed to sail the 7 seas for eternity. So yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. A sinister grin across his face said, you'll be doomed to this place. The devil heard my oath, shame of my boast. Oh, a ghostly ship from the depths, freedom from fear is the only gift of death. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must tow. We sail through them, cursed and condemned. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. If you cast your eyes, you'll join us like those before. We're an omen of the ocean night. When you see the Flying Dutchman, it's too late for your soul. To the waters we gave now our breath. Yo-ho, let the ocean winds blow. The line forever we must
Well, I know not everybody did, but I wish you would. For True Crime Paranormal. On True Crime Paranormal last night, we did, what was it, the second episode, The Son of Sam, the conclusion. Next weekend, we're going to be doing the Kobe killer of Japan. I don't know if people know who that is, but the guy was a cannibal. What'd you say? I heard a guy or a cannibal. Could you repeat that? We couldn't understand. I said,
That's just your Cajun accent. Just put something in your mouth and
yeah. I said that to a guy with a cannibal over there from Japan. You don't understand me. It's on you. You don't get it.
pay people live when they eat their flesh.
So Private Soul says, why not start the live stream when you're ready to start talking? It's ridiculous.
It's part of a campaign of psychological warfare that we're waging specifically on you, Private Soul.
Everyone in the audience is
It's a conspiracy. We're conspiring with the CIA, MI5, MI6, and Mossad to wage psychological warfare on you specifically. If you've noticed, like, things in your house every now and then that have been moved over ever so, and there's no explanation for it. Yeah, that's us too. That's not paranormal activity.
You ever feel like you're being watched?
But he's not a soldier.
That's me. I'm in your house watching you.
Yeah, we have agents in your walls, and we also have smaller midget agents living within
excuse me,
underneath your floors.
Say that word.
I'm sorry, tiny person.
Little people.
Tiny little people agents
little people.
living underneath your floorboards as well.
Not just under the floorboard. That means that they're like microscopic people. Now you're being insulting.
No, we have those too. Yes.
Oh, we have. Okay, we do. All right.
Yes.
As long as everyone's represented.
Yeah, we've made some investments down in Central and South America, and we've bought some of those and have them trafficked.
Right.
Yeah,
and then every color of the rainbow is represented.
Of course. Obviously, diversity is our strength.
I don't know about teal. Did we get teal? I put it on the list.
We're working on teal.
We've spoken to teal, but they're not compromising.
Our labs are still trying to make teal happen.
Make teal happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen, folks. Private's probably just trying to say, whatever. Get your crap together. Get your crap together. Jeez, what is wrong with your hair? Look at his hand. He's doing the magic. He's cursing us. He's got his hair. What's wrong with his hair? Somebody said, they go, you're always messing with you care about your hair too much. How about now? Do you think I care about the whole show? We're going to do this. If it's a distraction, it's on you.
Get the Ace Ventura here. The Ocho, what's his name?
Ocho Cinco. No, Ocho Cinco.
The football guy.
Someone in the chat's going
Quincy Ocho.
Yeah.
White dope. Sit right there, man. This whole show is just going to be brought to you by Bird Hair from the cartoon Bird. Oh, whatever. Don't care. Let's be honest. What do you come for?
With your hair.
Do you come to look at my hair, or do you come to hear the words that I speak? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? I post all kinds of stuff on my Facebook, and every time they're like, why do you post that? It shows such and such people in a bad light. I said, because such and such people need to be seen in a bad light. I think it's funny. I like what makes me laugh is when I repost. I like what's making me laugh. The unexpected, the goofy, right? But here's one thing that I posted on my Facebook. Read that. And if you're driving, don't. Is that your back?
Yeah.
Jeez, dude. What is everyone's thoughts about the attack on the woman in Oklahoma? I posted that in a group called, and apparently I'm a top contributor there. I didn't even realize that. Dogman, Believable Evidence and Encounters. Right? Hair's kind of going back into place on its own. I got to mess it back up again. Okay, we got to get it going.
Gotta whip it around.
So we ended up, the original post got, like you can see right there, it got 218 comments, 147, whatever. But I want to read. There's a bunch of people from you guys who commented on my post that I made on Facebook. I hope nobody blocked him of the moderators. He wasn't. I don't care. He's not hurting my feelings.
No, nobody blocked him.
Don't block him. Let him say what he's going to say. If he wants to critique me, let him critique me. As long as he's not being exceptionally rude, which some people are, and then they get in trouble. I mean, but if not, whatever. But he's just, and he's kind of right. Just start whenever you're ready to start talking. The problem is we got to get people in here. And by the end of the show, you'll have 400 something people. And they've missed part of the show. You understand, Private? He probably bailed, but if you didn't. Yeah, he is kind of, I get it. But still, it's free speech, There's certain types of rude and snarkiness that I can't stand. And then there's others that I kind of can understand, what they're doing. But, yeah. And if anybody remembers Dragon Gamer, who said something the other day,
Yeah.
if you would unblock him, that'd be fine. I talked with him, and that's okay. But I don't, I just don't like people that say things a certain way, whatever. So I wanted to read some of the comments while we wait to get people in here. We're going to talk about the hag tonight. And it just hit me earlier. I was in the shower. I was taking my bi-weekly shower. That's how I stay young and fresh, by not showering.
That's how often you take them?
You're practically rubbing your skin off.
Jeez. I didn't know we were supposed to be taking them every 2 weeks.
But yeah, so I take cold showers almost every day. If I miss a day, but it's very rare, but so anyways, here, and also you take the cold shower because it rejuvenates your body and it's good for your skin. It keeps your skin young and healthy and looking young anyway. Mine looks young, and I don't have to use foreskins or anything to make my skin look young. I just have a baby face, always have. When I was younger, I didn't like looking like a child because I got carded until I was 40. You can ask these guys. Like, they would card them and then card me, and I'm like, dude, I'm 40 years old. They're like, well, anybody that looks 30, I'm like, okay, whatever. Thank you for the compliment, but I don't know how old I look, but apparently it was not very old because I was getting carded until several years ago. They kind of look at me, and now, and I wait, and I'm like, and they're like, get out of here, go get in there in that bar. Do you need your walker? I'm like, I don't have a walker, and they're like, oh, sorry, didn't mean to offend, just kind of, and then I'm like, how did you know, walker? Are you one of them? And they're like, just get in the bar, geriatric man. Get in there and don't dance. We don't want you to break a hip.
Move along, Grandpa.
Like, how many times we got to teach you this lesson, old man? There's no dwarves living in your walls.
I love the young people.
Yeah, so we have a few comments here we can read. You want to read? Because I got to save my voice. I've been talking on the phone for 4 days, doing all kinds of scheduling and this merger. So what ends up happening when you do something like this? It's a massive undertaking because it wasn't 2 companies, it was 3. So the company that they didn't absorb us, we joined together, I guess you could say. They had absorbed a smaller company, and then we merged. So you had that smaller company had only been in their system for a little less than a month, and then they merged with us. So it was like, what? So now you have like all of these supervisors. You have like 8 chiefs, and you still got way more Indians than chiefs, and that's a good thing, right? But there's all these people telling me that they're in charge. I'm the operations manager. I'm the manager. I'm in charge. I'm in charge. I'm like, I don't care. You don't care about titles. I just care about the bottom line. That's it. And so everybody has been super nice. They've been very respectful. There has been one little hiccup, one bump in the road, and that person turned out to be really super cool, super nice. So it's been a big undertaking, but I'm happy for it, and I'm glad that Marty gets to go off and retire and live his life. He's a great guy. Give him your prayers. He was awesome to me, like a dad, for almost 20 years. And he was a great partner. Couldn't ask for a better guy to own AmeriShield and to give me the best deal me and my people could possibly ask for. And now we're moving into a new era. It's going to be a little more structured, and that is completely fine with me. In fact, I welcome it because there are certain things that have to change. And I am glad that we're going to be working with people who are into moving forward with technology and different, schemes that we can use to get everybody on track and get everybody paid correctly and everything, which was never a problem for us before. But, my partner, he was an older guy and he was used to doing things a certain way, and it was kind of a harder way. But that was how he did it, and I didn't complain. But now we have a more fast track, more streamlined. We're looking at a future here, hopefully, that'll be, and hopefully with the right, with the right blessings from God, I have another 5 years and I can go, and just do this. I'd love to see this blow up. But here's the thing, and this is very important if you're watching me on YouTube, which there's no other way to do this because you're on YouTube. But I mean, if you're watching me on YouTube regularly, you need to hear this. I've been watching a lot of tutorials and videos lately, and apparently it is a big problem for everyone. YouTube has become hard. What I mean by hard is you played a video game on regular mode and then on hard mode. They're like on God mode. That's what they call that in video game speak. And it has become extremely hard. What they're trying to do is the same thing that the board here in Texas did years ago, and that was to weed out all of the wannabes. There again, it's harder, but I also like a challenge, and I welcome it as long as they give us a fair shake and they don't do anything that's not correct with me. I don't have a problem with it because about 12 years ago, the board here in Texas got really, really strict, really, really tight, and we survived. But it was like a purge, and a lot of companies fell by the wayside. But there were so many companies coming in and doing all kinds of BS and sending guards out there that weren't registered, that weren't, they weren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. There were people working at Whataburger, I'm not even joking, okay, who had guns on their hips, and they were not even registered to be a level 1 or 2. These were people carrying guns. It was like level 3 and 4, and you were just like, what the heck is going on? And I was at a Whataburger in Houston, and I witnessed somebody from the state come in and check these people, and they didn't even have a guard card, which is like the bare minimum to do anything in the state of Texas is you have to have a guard card. And these people didn't have anything, and one of them even had a shotgun that he was just holding, and this was in a bad area. So I understand the shotgun, but I walked by and I was like, geez. And the guy looked really rough. He looked like who hired the fox to guard the chickens? You know what I mean? I was like, this guy. And I turned around to walk away because I'm like, what place is this where this is what's happening, And so as I was walking away, I saw these DPS guys get out and start going up there. And it used to be the Board of Private Security and Private Investigations was the one that ran it. Now it's the DPS, right? Department of Public Safety. And so they got real strict, and they started just checking everybody, and fine, great, do what you got to do. Because there were a lot of people doing things that they weren't supposed to be doing. In fact, I was at the bowling alley one time, and they had a guard there. He was on his phone the whole time. Yeah, covered in tattoos. He even had one on his face right here. If you have a facial tattoo, more power to you, but you will not work for me. I cannot present you to the client that way. I just can't. It's not me discriminating. It's the clients who are going to go, why is that guy here? He looks like he belongs to Insane Clown Posse. And no offense to juggalos, but that's just, whatever. And so I have some picky clients, they nitpick us about our hair and beards and stuff. So I go into the restroom, and I'm just like, it smells like dank killer in there. And if you know, you know. And I walked in, and that dude was in the stall, and he came out, and he was just like, and I'm like, dude, where is your post at? Where are you supposed to, where's what? He comes out like Tally. I can do my job if I could just get high. I was like, okay, well, you just did. And I'm not a tattletale, and it's not my job to go and tell this guy. I just remembered his face, and I was like, that guy will never, ever work for me. Like, that will never happen. Okay. He couldn't come in and point the gun at me and make me give him a job. I'd be like, well, I guess I'm coming home, Lord, because I ain't hiring this guy. And it's a problem. There's people that are just doing, and we went to one site, not too long ago, and we ended up getting the account because me and Tony saw the guy sitting in his car sleeping. And he wasn't sleeping, he had a blanket and a pillow. He was laid back with his mind not on his money and his money not on his mind. He didn't care. And so this is the kind of stuff you have going on out here. It's like the Wild West. Well, they did the same thing with the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. They went a little crazy, but you had a million clubs and bars here in Austin. So now it's happening here on YouTube, which is one of our major platforms. And you're probably going like, well, what does this have to do with us? Well, what it has to do with you is that they've made it very difficult for a lot of us YouTubers now. You have to really do something, stand out, be different, whatever, to make money on YouTube. What that means is you're going to get a lot of these channels that are going to get checked out. They're going to be gone. And especially the ones that are just pure AI, like it's just pure AI and it's made up stories, made up chat GPT, whatever. And Nellie's channel, the Dead Zone Transmissions, we're going to start doing lives on there probably at least once every couple of weeks, at least, because we don't want that to happen to her because her stories are not made up. She gets her stories from people. Those are stories that we get, and then she puts them on there. They're not made up AI stories, and neither are mine. This is real deal, Holyfield. And it can be a lot of work, but it keeps you protected from going the way of the dodo because they're getting rid of pure AI. They're just trying to get rid of it because nobody wants it, dude. Nobody wants to hear that crap. And some of these people have made them names for themselves. One particular guy that we had issue with a while back, he's now doing political stuff or whatever. And I saw him doing, Alex Jones had given him some kind of kudos or whatever. And I'm thinking, if he only knew that guy, he referred to him as a preacher. And I'm like, oh, okay. Guy makes AI stories and says, nonsense and says he's the greatest storyteller the world has ever seen. Well, you might be. You're the greatest BS artist ever seen. And I do applaud that he's doing something with the right and backing up Alex because I think Alex is. I wasn't a big fan until until lately. He's really shown that he's trying to get the truth out there, and he's been saying what needs to be said. Now I like him a lot more, and like I said, I've met him years ago at the cable access. And I'm not one to sit here and name drop, and be like whatever. I know a ton of people in the conservative field, and I know a ton of people from all over these different platforms. I know producers and directors and actors and all kinds of people, authors. But I'm not going to sit up here and be like, I know this guy, I know that guy, this lady, that lady, this guy. Who cares? Nobody cares. I know who's who. Let's put it that way. And I do think that, the president calling him a poo-poo cacahead along with the other half a dozen people that are telling him he's wrong. There's a lot more than that, but he just named a few of the main people that he's angry at. But Mr. President, I got to tell you, you've gone off track. That doesn't mean that I am for the left. I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, and I'm not some libertarian. I have some friends that are libertarian, and I'm fine with that. But I just really think that we need to get back on track. And I think Alex is doing what he's supposed to be doing. But it's easy for people to be frauds and be whatever, and then buddy up to people who are in a position like Alex is. And Alex doesn't know. He doesn't know that guy's full of crap because he doesn't pay attention to the paranormal. But on that note, there are some really big, heavy hitters in the paranormal, cryptid, UFO, alien and ancient civilization people that we're going to be doing some work with coming up pretty soon. Okay. I'm going to be, they've been waiting on me. It's not a matter of me trying to book them. That is not a problem for me. The problem is I don't have time. I do not have time. And as you noticed, we were not on the air Friday. Friday, we couldn't get out of the ranch, and then it was flooded out over there. And so we got in, then it was like trying to get out. We have things we got to do. We got to record this week for TCP, True Crime Paranormal. We have things we got to do. We have things we got to do for Random Files. We're not doing much on Random Files. I'm waiting for my monetization to go through. The Y'all Want to Laugh video that I thought was funny, you know, but I just told it very matter of fact. No, that was not an April Fool's joke. That is real. And a lot of people messaged me after that and said, I've dealt with the same kind of stuff. The same stuff. Can you believe that? As crazy as that video was, Y'all Want to Laugh? And that right there, and then having a video about buying silver. So that video got demonetized too.
Mhm.
So they demonetized both of those videos. I'm not real sure why that one got demonetized. I don't know. It was because we used eBay or something.
That one was probably the music.
Yeah, our own music got us demonetized on the Y'all Want to Laugh video.
Yeah, they only let you whitelist one channel, so
That's a
Morning.
problem. So that's what's happening with our channel, but that's okay. Those videos are just a connection to PRT. PRT on the YouTube channel, I'm just using it to talk about stuff that we really can't talk about on here. I'm going to start doing a lot of work on the Rumble channel. So if you go to the Real Random Files on Rumble, please go like and subscribe to the Real Random Files on Rumble. That's where I'm going to be hitting pretty hard. I'm going to be doing a lot of work on there. I think I'm going to make that our main voice when it comes to things outside of, you know, this. I will be putting more structured videos onto the Random Files. And I'm just going to, you know, because the algorithms will go all over the place. If you're doing a video about buying silver, then you're doing one about the Iranian missile capabilities, and then you're doing one about, you know, whatever. Y'all Want to Laugh. It's just they don't know who to send the video to. And so it's really just for you guys, people from PRT that want to go over there and get a little more besides just doing PRT. And this past week, we were so slammed with different kinds of work and getting things going with this merger and everything else we have to do that I'm sorry, but we didn't do the members. And we didn't do, what was it? We didn't do on Tuesday, instead of doing Patreon, we did what I thought was important, which was what Anthony's about to read here, some of the comments.
Mhm.
So if you want to do that, we're going to get started with that. But just remember, that's what's going on. I had to give you an update because I haven't been here in a while. And so sorry. But go ahead.
The top comment here says,
Tell them what that is first. Remind them.
Oh, yeah. It's this post right here. What is everyone's thoughts on the attack on the woman in Oklahoma? Posted this on Facebook and got some interesting feedback. So the top comment here says, it sure sounds like a dog man, but they will probably try and cover it up. The woman says she heard a deep growl and it was a dog-like animal that attacked her. The sheriff said he hadn't seen anything like this attack in 38 years of his career. Her clothes have been torn off. Even the doctors are puzzled at the savagery of her injuries. If she pulls through, it should get really interesting. And it's another one. It says, I think it was a dog man, and I'm surprised it even made the news and wasn't covered up quicker. They're gonna have to do a complete wash job now. And there was another guy who pointed out that the GoFundMe clearly states that the dog was still present. Well, that wasn't in the initial report. That came afterwards, which makes you have to take that with a grain of salt. I don't believe that. Definitely a dogman attack. There are a few attacks also in main cities in precincts that go unreported due to people being scared of being mocked, and also further victimization by government. Dogmen are apparently using underground cities and subterranean tunnels to move around. And another comment says dogman will be covered up and swept under the rug. The overwhelming consensus is that it's a dogman. Someone else says, reminds me of the teacher in North Carolina a few years ago. She passed away from her injuries. And the case that they're talking about is a woman named Brenda Hamilton. Let's see what else. Another comment here. It says there's a podcast on YouTube called Monster 911. That's with Lance Hightower. He did a couple of shows on this incident. There was also an attack on a lady several years ago where there were a lot of similarities between the two cases. I believe that lady passed away, and the doctors were ordered to keep quiet about the severity of her injuries. Also, one other case in Texas where a young man was killed, and across his back he had a large claw markings. The slash marks were spread too far apart to be a mountain lion or a bear, as some of the authorities were trying to say it might have been. Seems highly probable that it's Dogman, more than likely. I think it will be covered up, swept away, and victim and family will be bought off. Hopefully, husband will get his kidney and they'll disappear. But yeah, it's just the overwhelming consensus from pretty much everyone is that this is a Dogman attack.
Here's the deal. Lance Hightower and I, we talked over the weekend. He's going to be coming on the show this coming week. He'll be back he'll be back in the town that he's originally from. He's in southeastern Oklahoma, and he said he'd be back by tomorrow. So we're going to get him on the show when he's ready. If I can get him on, and he'll be somebody that we're going to be talking to about this case. Man, this hair just kind of fell kind of weird, but so that's the thing. We're going to have that. We're going to be talking to Lance, and he's going to come on. So I know there are those that hate us, that they're probably going to go and try to run interference and cause problems. So you guys too, do me a favor and just reach out to him and tell him you're looking forward to it. Let him know, and that so he doesn't have these morons try to mess with him and tell him not to deal with us or whatever, because those are people who like to cause problems. I don't know if these people get paid or what, but just to stop the truth from coming out. But it does seem weird. Hey, Rich Sykes. And there's Rich. So we learned something too. I watched a video because I observed something which was strange to me. Having a ranch is a pretty large piece of property. We have about 78 acres, but we have 68 of it in our use. And so it is a weird thing that I noticed. We have a bunch of coyotes just beyond a place called Turkey Creek, in between there and Granger Lake. You can look it up on a map, which is not super close to us, but it's, in the same terrain or whatever. There are a ton of hogs, but that's like several miles from us. Okay. So I was curious about the terrain there where I'm at and why there aren't a ton of hogs, but there's a ton of coyotes, and I have to look and see what the predators are in the area so that my animals aren't disturbed and messed with. And I started to notice a trend. Now, I remember I told you guys that on both sides of the family, a lot of my cousins, my aunts and uncles, what do they do for a living, Anthony?
Farming and ranching.
Farming and ranching. Most of them, even the ones that don't necessarily just farm and ranch, they live out in the country, and I guarantee they'll have chickens at least. Like the bare minimum, they'll have a few livestock and some chickens. And hardly any of them live in town. And I have my one cousin who is a plumber. He has his own business, and he does very well, and his two sons do it with him. And even them, they live out in the country. So most all of my family on both sides are very rural people. Okay. Kind of people that, like, if you go over there to eat dinner, they probably grew the food themselves. No lie. So if you have any questions about any sort of anything, agriculture, any sort of livestock, anything, it's easy. You just pick up the phone, you call somebody. And so I did. And I called and I asked them about this weird thing with the coyotes. I said, what do you have, hogs or coyotes? And I worded it that way. And about a dozen of my cousins and aunts and uncles answered either coyotes or hogs. Only two said they had both. But one of them told me that she has not seen any hogs in a while. So it could just be coyotes. So it got me to thinking, I'm like, why is that? So I started looking it on YouTube. I started looking for videos because you can pretty much figure out anything on YouTube if you're smart enough to do what you got to do and try. So whenever I looked it up, I found a video and it told the tale. Coyotes are actually keeping the hog population in check. And you may think, well, what does it matter? Because there are about 9 million hogs in this continental United States. And they said almost 3 million of them are here in Texas. And they are doing a massive amount of damage. They will destroy your property. I have a deer lease on my property. And we get a lot of deer on there. And when I mean a lot, what do you guys think? There's a ton of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And so what happens when they get their legs broken from the divots from the hogs, or they get gored by the hogs? They're going to run them off of your property. They're going to destroy your animals. They'll even attack your horses. I'm not joking. One of my listeners a couple years ago, right after the conference, she came to my conference and she showed me a picture of one of these mean ass hogs and what it did to her horse. It gored it. The horse lived. The hog did not, thank goodness. So they got it. But these animals are terrible, dude, and they will attack you on sight. They are not afraid. They'll run right up on you, and they are wild hogs that have bred with wild boars that were brought over here at the turn of the 20th century by big game hunters that wanted to hunt these feral boars from Europe. So they brought these boars over here from Western and Central Europe, and they have been a nightmare. And they came in two different influxes. They brought another wave over from Eurasia, which is another type, and they made them even more dangerous. So I started to wonder, like, why though the coyote? The coyote is like a 30 to 40 pound. They get about 50 pounds here in Texas. And the coy wolves and coy dogs get even bigger. They're pretty massive. So they themselves, if you look at these packs, they're not a normal coyote. They're not like the ones you see out in LA. The little ones crossing the little bridges and stuff. We get ones in even our neighborhood here, probably 50, 60 pounds. I'm not joking.
Yeah, they get big here.
And they are aggressive. So I'm pretty sure there's a good mix of coy wolf in there. Because some of them they have big, broad backs, and they're not afraid. They're not afraid of you. You can't go at them and tell them to shoot. They'll kind of go like this, and then they'll come right back at you. They don't blink their eyes. They're just kind of looking, you know. They're bad dudes. And so, but what I figured out by watching these videos is something that just came up in my mind. Like, what are we going to do about the coyotes out on our property? But why are there no hogs out there? But then when you go about 6, 7 miles, there's a bunch of them. These pockets of coyotes where they have taken over, what they do is they're so clever that they'll come with about 10 to 12 members, and they'll run by a sow den. That's the female hog. And they'll run a distraction, and the mama hog will come out, and she'll leave her babies. And they said that on these trail cams, it was how long? Do you remember? 5 seconds. It only took less than 5 seconds for these babies to be picked off by these coyotes. These coyotes were taking out their whole litters, and by the time the mama sow went back to the den, she just turned around at a little helicopter. They were 300 yards away, sprinting away with the babies. Now, as cruel as that sounds, you have no idea, these pigs. These hogs are formidable, horrific animals. And so I'll take the coyotes over them any day of the week. But they are now destroying the hog population. The problem was that there were bounties on coyotes, and I was not a fan of the coyote. I thought they were vermin. I still do. But when you decimate the coyotes in a region, guess who moves in? The hogs. Because the natural predator that takes out their babies and keeps them from reproducing, these massive litters, we were taking out their natural predator. They are no match for a full-grown hog. A full-grown hog can, thank you, Paula King. She's always the first one to really get it started here. We had a few other people done it, but it's mostly members. And then you had Gwen. Thank you, Gwen. But Paula's good people. So here's the thing. these coyotes are now, they've developed a system, and get this, they are not hunting at night. I used to hear them at night all the time. In the last few years, I started noticing they're making a lot of noise and they're dawn. So the videos that I watched confirmed it. They are attacking these hog mamas' babies in the morning. You know why? Because the hog, like many other beings, hunts at night. They are a nocturnal predator. So the coyote has developed this ability to wait until dawn when the mama goes back to the burrow, and they find these babies by the mama because she's big and they can smell it. And the hogs are good at concealing their burrow, but a hog is a big, massive animal. You're not going to be able to get away from the nose of a coyote. So what they do is they stalk these dens when the mama is exhausted and she's been out foraging all night. They follow her back to her den, and then they run interference and they cause chaos. And when she runs out to go and deal with whatever it is, they run in and grab the babies, and boom, they're gone. Now, hogs are very smart. If you set a trap and there's 30 or 40 in a pack and you kill 30 of them, you know what happens to those other 10? You will never be able to trap them with that same trap. They will never, ever be caught by that same, even one that looks like that. They will not. I'm
And
telling
they'll
you,
teach their offspring to stay away from that.
they'll teach their young to stay away from that. But imagine, if you will, like now let's look at this in the supernatural sense. Imagine, if you will, what it's like for us as people. Now, this is how I'm going to segue into tonight's show. Now, we talked up to some people, and we did the show on Wednesday about some people who went to the Manistee National Forest and they had a horrific encounter and whatever. Chase and his friend Chuck, or Chucky as they call him. He actually told me he doesn't really like being called Chucky. They call him that kind of to mess with him because he's got reddish blonde hair. So his name is Charles, and he's like, I don't even call myself Chuck. I call myself Charles. And they started calling me Charlie Brown, and I didn't care about that. But then they started calling me Chucky to say Chucky doll, but you're also called Charles, so that's Chuck, right? So he says, if you want to call me Charles, that's fine, or Chuck, but I really don't like being called Chucky. So I was okay, sorry about that. Your friend did that to you. These guys like to mess with each other a lot. They prank the heck out of each other, And I would show you a video they sent me, but it's probably not appropriate because they pulled one of them's pants down at the gas station. And I said, well, we done some stupid things like that. And it's, he still had his underwear on, but it's like, dude, he's, they messed with him. So they had the guy sit in chocolate. And they said, what is that on your shorts? And then they pantsed him and it's on his butt. And he's like, what is that? And he's like mad. And, there's girls around. So it was embarrassing. But I don't think it's appropriate for the video. But this kind of stuff they do to each other, right? But my point to this is now, if you are an adult, a human being, why do we not teach our children everything that they need to know to survive? And you're probably going, well, we're not pigs, we're not hogs, we don't teach our babies this, and we're not coyotes, we're more advanced, right? Yeah, we are. So why is it that we don't teach our children about our experiences? And I noticed that with the people we're going to talk about tonight, Chuck and Todd, both had horrific experiences in a Victorian mansion that was the family of Chad. We talked about him in the last week. They owned this Victorian mansion, and he grew up in it, and it was terrifying. So one of them did what we all know to do, which is to pray and ask God for help, and the other one did not. But neither one of them went on to teach their children about these beings and saying that this is what is real. Imagine, though, if you were a hog and you were teaching your babies about avoiding traps and coyotes, and if you're a coyote, you're teaching them about avoiding traps and how to steal baby piglets and to live. Why is it that these animals are smart enough and cognizant enough to do this, but we as human beings We're supposed to be at the top of the food chain. We're supposed to be at the top of everything. We can't even teach our children that the spirit world is real. What do you think Jesus Christ was? Let you think about that for a minute. What do you think he was? Well, in the Bible, it says that the Word was with God and the Word was God, right? And then it says that Jesus was the Word made flesh. So it was kind of like God sending a part of himself. Like, think of it like the zip drive thing we talked about, right?
Hmm.
He sends a part of himself and has as an earthly experience here on our little tiny world. Not nearly as big as God, nothing we can do. We're just little whatever, but he cares enough about us that he sent his only begotten son, a part of himself, to suffer and die and be a part of the human experience, right? We teach our children about that up to a point. Then we're kind of like, well, you're kind of on your own. Mom, Dad, I was in the basement and a creature came out of the wall that was a woman. This is a real thing, right? And she had no eyes. Jeez, that sounds scary, son. You know what? Stop reading so many comic books like that Jonah Hex.
Especially that one.
You need to stop reading all those goofy comic books before bed. I got to read the newspaper, the sports page. It's important stuff. Right? I like sports a lot, but it's not the focal point of my life. It's just not. But this is kind of how we are. We are that way. As a species, we do a disservice to our young. Why can't we be more like these coyotes and these hogs that flourish here in Texas? You can't throw a rock without hitting one of them. I was driving with my wife down in north central Austin, right there in town, right? Now, granted, Tony has explained this the other night, right, Tony, that the Austin's full of little forests, right? We were talking about in Random Files, right?
Yep.
Well, where we were at was off of Spicewood Springs. And if you look at it on a map, you're thinking that's right in the middle of town. But I had an experience there one night and I went on to Abe's show and I talked about it because I saw this weird shadow-like creature standing by a fence. And I have a friend who's a professional boxer. He goes by the name of Carl, and we'll get him on the show. He's a nice guy. And now he has his own business or whatever. He's retired from boxing. He almost became the lightweight champion. And he's a good friend of Trey Felton, who owns the Thorndale Meat Market. That's the barbecue place, who catered both of our conferences. And when I was talking to him the other night at Trey's, he was saying that he's had multiple shadow people encounters. This guy was a boxer for your professional. Now he's a preacher and he has a business. And he's very frank and open about it. People see these things all the time, but you know what he's doing? Unlike a lot of people, he teaches his kids about this. These things are real. You need Christ. That's what you need. I need to get him on the show so he can explain it. More people need to do that. When I was talking to Chuck, not Chuggy, I said, Chuck, did you tell your children about this? He says, oh, yeah. Yeah, I did. When they got older, he's like, but my one son was already having experiences with something very similar to this. But what's crazy, he goes, is that, we're not even living in the same state. And I told him it doesn't matter. For whatever reason, the hag is something that we all have dealt with in some form or another, whether it was your mother-in-law or your sister. I'm joking. Get out of here. Get inside the club, you geriatric. Okay. No, it's one of those things where when I was 11 years old, and I'll go back over my encounter, then we'll get into these. But why can't we be any better than a coyote or a pig and tell our children, hey, this is something that we need to be aware of? Instead, we wait until the disease has set in, then we talk about it. When I'm a big believer in an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Why can't we do this? Why is it? What do you think that is, Tony? I'll put you on the hot seat here.
No, to be honest, I would have to think about it for a little bit.
You don't know why people don't teach. When you had your encounters, what did your mom tell you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my mom told me that kind of just not talk about it. You know, she's always believed that it's there, and she's told me about what things are, and but she's always said like, yeah, like know of their existence, but don't talk about them.
She said, "Don't talk about them."
Mhm.
Well, then why did she talk about it all the time? Me and her had many, many conversations about them.
She told me not like.
Well, yeah, you were a kid though at that time.
Yeah.
See, there again, his mother knew a lot about it. She knew full well about it. Me and her have had multiple conversations about these things. But you tell your children, don't talk about it. That is kind of the norm with us, isn't it? Todd, on the other hand, he didn't even tell his children what happened. Years later, his son Arnie was 10 or 12 years old, and he tells his dad, "I seen a woman with no eyes float into my room." He's like, when they first moved into this house that they were living in Missouri, Michigan. He's like, and we were living there 2 towns over from the town that he grew up in, which is where this Victorian mansion is. And he says, "Why didn't you tell me this?" He says, "I did." And he's like, "Oh, when was this?" He said, "Dad, I told you 3 times already." He's like, "I remember your mother saying something about that, but I don't remember you." So I told Todd, I said, "But you dropped the ball. I'm not judging." And he said, "Yeah, I did." And then I told him what I saw. It scared him. And then he had nightmares. And so we didn't want to talk about it anymore. We stopped talking about it. I said, "You don't think that the appropriate response would be to let these children know that these things are real? And that the quickest and easiest solution is to say, 'I tie, bind, and rebuke you in the name of Christ.'" And he's like, "Yeah, I didn't even do that myself. So I didn't think to tell my children that. And I told him, I said, "That is a problem, Todd. At least Chuck actually went over it with his children, but he didn't mention anything about Jesus." I said, "Do you believe in it?" And Chuck's like, "Absolutely." But yet we do our children a disservice. We don't tell them. We don't warn them about the trap. We can't even be good enough to our children that we could say, "Hey, we're like hogs. We teach our children to watch out for traps." That doesn't sound right. When your children leave the house, I'm going to tell you something, and this is very important. In my whole career at this, and I've been taking stories since I was a teenager, my entire years doing this, not once have I ever heard someone say, "Before I left the house, I said a prayer to God to help me not get into a wreck, and then I got into a wreck." Nobody has ever said that. And you know what? I've asked that question to many people. I've never heard anybody say, "I said a prayer for my son or daughter that they would have a safe trip from here to Houston, and God didn't answer my prayer. They died in the wreck." Why would you get in an automobile that is capable of going 120 miles an hour, which most of them are nowadays, or let them get in an automobile and not say a prayer? It takes a few seconds, a few minutes to say a prayer. Now, here, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm over here saying this, and I'll admit this. I said my morning prayer, but we didn't say the group prayer because we had a long day and everybody was sleeping until an hour before the show. We didn't go to bed till 11 or noon, right?
Yeah.
It was crazy. We were working and we were busy. Anthony was out at the ranch, and so, and I'm pretty sure my wife's asleep. She's been exhausted. And so everybody's tired, and Madeline's on her way to work, and Scorpion's at work, and my brother's busy. Everybody's busy. Loki's working. Adrian's working, right? Everybody, the whole gang. So we didn't say our prayer. We'll say it when we're done with the show, but we don't go a step further without saying the prayer. And you shouldn't either, because the chances are that you're probably not going to get into a wreck, and you probably won't see a hag or a woman that's trying to do something to your soul, right? The odds are pretty good, but it could happen. You could be just like those sows, and coyotes could come and take things from you, very precious, because we have something that they don't have. We have God, the Holy Spirit, and Jesus Christ. Pigs and coyotes don't have that. All they have is their instinct and their will to live. And they, in a lot of ways, are better parents than we are. Now, some people have told me, well, you don't have children. Yeah, and I raised 4 of them. Not mine. And I raised others' children. I raised them to be men. And I've helped and participated in the raising of many of my nieces and nephews. Stood in for the parents and did everything I had to do to be a good person, to teach them values. I'm not going to say names or anything like that, but I've had cousins and people who've gone to jail, and I've had to take in their kids and give them and they always remember me. When it's time to graduate or a birthday, anniversary, whatever, they're always thanking me and telling me, you're a part of my life. Thank you for being there, blah, blah, blah. And that's your job. But I teach them everything I know about the physical world, the spiritual world, and the mental, that we have to maneuver. And a lot of people don't have the same mental capacities that we do. They don't understand it. They don't see the world the way we do. And we lose patience for that. But when you stop and you look at those people, in a lot of ways, they're more equipped for the real reality. We're dealing with the matrix. But remember, inside of this simulation, Jesus says that the God of this world is Satan, right? And Satan and his minions hold sway. And so many people say, they talk about God and God and God, and they really don't realize that they're talking about the God of this world and his people. They don't serve the same God. They don't serve Christ. They serve the God of this world, or gods of this world. They serve Baal, and they don't just serve him. They Baal Haman, Baalzebub. You realize that Baal is the name, he's Lord.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's a
So
title.
they changed the spelling, like Baalzebub is one of the neighboring. I'm going to say this and go out on a limb here, but people don't know what that means. It means like Lord, right? He's Lord of the flies, they call him. He's like the master of Gehenna, which is like the trash heap, right? And Jesus says that's hell.
Yeah.
People don't understand. They don't know the Bible. And people go, oh, I've been studying this, and I learned all this, and I learned all that. And I'll ask them this question: have you taught your children that? Well, no. So they're going to go out into the world not armed. They're not going to have the armor of God. And then when they have these encounters as an adult or a young adult, they're not going to know jack all about it. They're not going to know anything. They're going to know jack. You could have prevented that. You could have taught them what you learned, and you could have studied with them, and you could have learned with them. Imagine when you were a kid. Now, a lot of us in Gen X, we were latchkey kids. You know what we were told about this kind of stuff by the older generation, especially our grandparents? Don't talk about that. You're going to get locked up. I have a theory about that, probably because the Tartarians, and I don't call it Tartaria because that's the Tartars, but that's what they call it, right? The lost civilization of Tartaria. Well, they had a vested interest. The people that destroyed it, the reset people, the elites, the people that were doing whatever on that island, those kind of people, they wanted to get rid of all of that. Because Jesus says you die for lack of knowledge. So they want you to die because of that, because they're the opposite of Christ. In fact, they are purely anti-Christ. So they want you to not know these things. So when something comes out of a wall and tries to grab you, you don't cry out to Christ. It hooks into you and it becomes a part of you and it stalks you. And for years of your life, it terrifies you. You're never alone. I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like I'm living in a haunted house. Maybe you are, maybe you're not, or more likely you're haunted. Well, what's haunting me? Well, what was it that you saw when you were 10, 11, 12 years old? Well, that was a long time ago. It's still there. Why? Did you ask it to leave? Well, no, because, no, I didn't. You know, why not? Well, I didn't know that that was the same thing. I just, but you saw it again, right? Well, yeah, I mean, but it's there. And then they'll say things like, well, how do I ask it to leave? Do I just tell it to go? Yeah, pretty much. Well, well, how? I know what they're saying. They're asking, like, to what authority do I have? You have the authority of Christ because he died for your sins. Do you believe in that? Maybe. Yeah, you don't really know, or you say yes, knee jerk react because you were raised in Sunday school. You need to know, do you really believe in that? Do you really want this thing gone? Or are you okay with it distorting you, your views, your mind, distorting your vision, making weird sounds and dragging things across the foot, all kinds of stuff. Are you okay with that? Well, I'd like it not to. Then you would like to say, in the name of Christ, I tie, bind, and rebuke you. But these people, what happened? We'll start with Chuck. When he was a kid, he was in a house with his friend Chad. And Chad, we talked about it. This poor guy lived in two haunted houses back to back. One he called the werewolf house. Terrible. The other one was the haunted Victorian house. And in that house, there was an entity that they called the faceless lady, but it wasn't like you would think, like it wasn't a blank face. No, she had a face. She just didn't have any eyes. Black, soulless pits, and her mouth was open, gaping open, like all the time. And she would scream and wake these kids up.
A banshee.
Horrific. A lot worse than that. A banshee just does that and says, well, somebody's going to die. See ya. No, this thing was coming and going, and it stuck with them. So I talked to Chad, and I said, Chad, what do you know about the faceless lady? His sister called it the watching woman. Because when they were first in that house, they were little, right? And Brooke was only a couple years older than him, and she had a speech impediment. And she didn't learn how to talk until she got older. And she would say, watching woman. They didn't know what that was. Then he goes down to the basement to get some tomato sauce because he's half Italian. His mom makes a lot of pasta. She's like, go down to the basement and get the sauce. Don't look at the woman. Just to come back with the sauce.
I'm gonna get the pizza.
I'm gonna get in the rigatoni, whatever. Why are you always worried about it? I'm gonna make a disease.
I fixed the plumbing.
She comes back. He comes back and he's like, Mama, I see the woman and she got no eyes. That's my horrible messing with people about it. No, I joke around about it because this guy actually had a cousin named Luigi.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. So we kind of joked about it. I said, you get a cousin named Luigi? He goes, yeah. My cousin Sal, Bernardino, something like that. And then he had a cousin named Luigi. They were brothers. He goes, this is my mom's family. They were Italians, and they would come over, and so we were playing. My mom and my aunt are cooking up some baked ziti, and they're like, go down to the basement and grab me 2 big jars of the tomato sauce. And he goes, my mom would can it. You know how they do with the jars?
Yeah.
And it's like, and they would make it with this kind of vinegary paste. It was really good. It was a Southern Italian thing. And he's like, I go down to the basement. My cousins we're playing Nintendo. We're all having fun. Luigi and Sal, they're playing. And he goes, Luigi's always real cool. My older cousin, he's like, you need some help? I'll come down there with you. He's like, no, I'm good. I got it. He said, I go down there and there's always this weird musty smell. And it's cold as ice down there. And he says, and I go down there. He goes, and I go to grab the tomato jars. And one of them moves back. And I'm like, whoa. He's like, and every hair on my body stood up. And he goes, and I'm a little kid at that time. I don't have a lot of hair, but I had hair on my arms. And it's standing up. He's like, I was just a kid. I was a little kid. I was like, how old? He maybe first grade, something like that, young. It was the second house we had lived in. We moved from the other house when I was young, And he says that the jar moved. He goes, and then I heard, like right behind me, he goes, it sounded like somebody choking and breathing out at the same time. He goes, and I was like, what? He goes, and I look up and I see the light in the kitchen. It's right there. I can hear my aunt, Olivia. She's talking with my mom. And I'm like, Mama! And the door goes, croak. I was like, oh, it slammed shut. He said, no, it didn't slam. It just went, croak. And then I heard it lock. You know what a child in first grade, that door locks. He takes off running back up the stairs and he gets tripped by a bony hand that grabs his ankle. He falls, he hits his knee, and he screams at the top of his lungs, Mama! And Mama, Italian Mama, much like a Hispanic mom, she's like, I'm going to help you, my baby. You know, they're Latin people, right? They freak out. She's like, I'm going to knock this door down. She's like and she's like, baby, open the door, unlock the door. And he can't because something is grabbing his ankle. And he goes, I'm kicking and I'm kicking. And I look back and I see what it is. Awful, awful thing. 1 second. So an awful thing, grabbing his ankle. And he looks back and he sees this woman. It's a woman's face. And there's like a shawl over her face. He didn't know what it was at the time. Kind of like a thin veil. He can see it. No eyes, just black pits. And the mouth was wide open, screaming at him. And it screamed like that. And he said, I like to have died right there. And it was physical. I could feel it. It was a physical thing on me. He's like, and I kicked at this witch. And I felt a physical thing. I kicked her in the face. And then my foot went through her head. And she moved her head like back and forth. And my foot came out of her head. He said it was weird. It was like something between physical and not physical. He's like, and then I heard the door open. And this thing looked up, saw my mother, and went off through the wall. His mother, not at the time, but years later, he's like, we went to go eat at this one restaurant. We had gone to visit our family who lived out in California. He's like, and we went to this place, this Italian restaurant there in Sacramento, or in San Jose. And he's like, we were eating, and he goes, and my mother says, look, I saw the thing that was on top of you. And he's like, Mom, why didn't you say something? She said, I didn't want to make it worse. Don't talk about it. You know, because they're Italian and they say the same thing. Tony's Vietnamese, Mom. Don't talk about it. Don't talk. Let's pretend like it doesn't exist. Because if you close your eyes and you stand in front of the train, they won't kill you. Don't matter. If you lay down in front of a train, you can close your eyes all you want. When you're a kid, you cover your head in your room, right? You ever done that? Yeah. I used to do that. And I couldn't breathe. I was like, it's so hot. But the devil's on the other side of the covers. I guess I'm going to die like this. You know, you just sit there as a child. I remember being at my grandparents' house and covering up with that blanket. Every summer, I did the same thing. My grandpa's like, you're getting big now. You're 5. You're going to have to drive soon. And, you know, you need to take care of us. We're going to die any day now.
Got bills to pay.
So what you got to do is go in there and lay in that bed. You look in there and you see demons all over the room. And you're like, okay, I can do this. You have this. Read it. Is it the Bible? It's a Superman comic. I got it from you at the 7-Eleven. You'll be fine. Good night. Closes the door. This is the education that I got. I'm scared. My grandpa, who paid lip service to being Catholic because he married my grandmother, who was Catholic, say the rosary. It seems to never work for me. I'm going to go to bed. Chip, chop, chip. And I'm laying there and I'm like, okay. Talking to the spirits. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of you. I'm going to read this. Lois came home and she was looking for Clark. What was that? Who's there? I'm here. What? What? I don't speak that language. I don't know what that is. I'm speaking English. I'm the devil. What? What? Every time. And you cover your head. You're like, I'm gonna cry myself to sleep. I'm under the covers. You can't hurt me under the covers. I am a big boy. I'm paying taxes next year. I'm almost 6, for goodness sakes. I'm Gen X. I'll be driving in a few months.
Getting a second job.
Second job. Taking out a second mortgage for my parents. Don't mess with me. I'm 28 pounds and dangerous with either arm. I'll punch my covers right off of me. And you suffer like that. You can't breathe. And then finally you pull the covers down and it's dark and you're like adjusting to the darkness. But you got the night light on. Then the grandpa comes in. Oh, forgot. Let me take this. Closes the door. You're a big boy.
You're gonna be 6 next year.
Deal with yourself.
You don't need these sissy lights.
Get yourself together. You
The
don't need a
rent's due on the
Paddington
end of the month.
Bear night light. What'd you say?
The rent's due at the end of the month.
Tomorrow we work in the garden. It's only 4 acres. It's full of spiders and snakes and scorpions. You'll be fine. Builds character. Yeah, but I fell into a black widow nest. Those aren't black widows. They're just black and red spiders. Stop making up stories. They killed your sibling last year, but that's because she's weak. You're not. You're a big boy. Why can't you be, more like me? You're like your dad. Always worried about death and, you're going to fly out the back of a truck.
That's just walking protein, sir.
1,500 miles with a load of watermelons in the back and you're worried about rolling out. You're 50 pounds now. Stop. You outweigh those watermelons. This is the kind of grandparents, and you had parents who were just about like that. They're like, well, when I got my arm cut off, I just grew another.
I just walked it off.
Your papa said he could do that.
I walked it off while I was walking uphill to school both ways.
But you don't have the other arm. I'm still waiting for it. It'll happen. This isn't real, but this is how you feel. You feel like this is how these people are, and they don't care. And every summer, the same thing happened. I went to their house and I tried sleeping in that haunted bedroom. And every summer, after the first or second night, I was out of there, man. And you know where I was sleeping? In the bed with my papa and grandma, or I was on the couch. And then my grandpa would go out there and sleep on the other couch. And we would go to bed watching Sanford and Sons and George Jefferson and All in the Family and Carol Burnett, whatever, reruns. And my grandpa would roll over, oh, good night. And I'd go to sleep on the couch. And I would hear stuff coming from that bedroom because that bedroom was haunted as hell. 3 bedrooms. And they always wanted me to sleep in the guest bedroom because the other one had a bunch of storage in it. So you couldn't go in that room. I don't even know what it was like in there. And then their bedroom, which was where I liked to be. I wanted to be in there in the bed. Terrified of being in the... And so you as a child, you don't know what's going on. And finally my grandmother said, JD, why are you scaring him? Why does he have to be in there in that bedroom? He's scared of it. There's nothing in that bedroom. I can't sense anything in there. But Papa, you said one time you saw a wolf on 2 legs in Louisiana. I did. It was a werewolf. There's no werewolf in there. Why are you worried? It wouldn't fit in there. It's so big. It looked like it would have ate my face right off. Let me tell you about it. And then after that, go to bed. Why not tell your children about Jesus? Nobody told me, hey, why don't you tie, bind, and rebuke in the name of Christ? Why don't you say this, say that, do that? Nobody told me this. Nothing. Much like Chad. He was there on the stairs. He gets up and he runs up the stairs years later when he's like 19. His mother's like, I saw it. Thanks. Did nothing for you, right? But that's how we grew up. But here's the thing. Todd, his friend, we'll start with his encounter. We'll get into this, And he says we were there one night. We were in the basement. The basement had been turned into like a little game room. He's like, Chad's parents were really cool. I mean, they had turned this into a game room, and it was like fun, man. We had fun. We'd go over there and we'd play. And then they would come down with pizza rolls and, the good stuff.
Heck yeah.
It was awesome. We'd trade Pokemon cards and baseball cards, and
Drink Mountain Dew.
whatever they had, whatever was going on at that time. I don't think he said Pokemon, but whatever. They said cards, I'm assuming, And he said we would be down there trading cards, baseball cards, and we'd argue and we'd play. And we had a dartboard and a ping pong table, and it was awesome. But they had fixed this house up and done a really good job. And so they got a lot of money for it. Almost doubled their investment, paid it off, and then bought another house, a smaller, but yet similarly haunted house. But that's another story. We've already talked about that. We're going to talk about what happened here down in the basement. What was it that was down in the basement? I don't know. But I know that one time, Chuck and Chase and Corey and Chad had all run upstairs to go and do something because there was some friend of Brooks over there who had come back with pizza. So they all ran up the stairs. And there was a pinball machine, one of these little mini pinball machines. And so Todd said, man, I was about to break my old score. So I just kept playing. I said, I'll be up there in a minute. One of the things that happened down in this basement was the breaker would trip and you would overload it. And he said that happened. He said, we had a garage. They had a garage. It was real nice. It was a detached garage and they turned it into like a bedroom. And it was cool to hang out in there too. They had like video games and stuff. And I think I talked about it on the one show, but he would be like, you'd be playing and you'd see stuff walk by that room. Scare the crap out of you. So we all just kind of got used to, we moved from there into the basement, and that summer he goes, I remember I was 8 years old. We were playing. It was the next year, I guess, when they moved to the other spooky house. And he says, I'm like 8 years old and I'm sitting there playing on this pinball machine. And well, the lights go out. That's lovely. He said, but Chad's mother had thought ahead and she had put one of these overhead lights up that ran on batteries. And so I walked over to it and he's like, and I heard walking towards me from the end of the basement. This is a big house. So the basement's the full, size of the foundation. Back in the corner there, I heard something coming towards me and breathing like it couldn't breathe, like something was wrong with this thing. And he's like, and I'm torn between turning on the light and just standing there, almost wanting to pee myself. And I yelled into the darkness, who's there? There was an echo. It came back because it was big, Back there was where a bunch of storage and stuff. And this other side of the basement was where we all played and had fun. But Chad himself told me, he's like, you never felt fully like you were alone. He's like, and I would never go down there, no matter what fun thing was down there. I never went down there alone. Then he remembers when Corey was running up the stairs, he says, you should probably come with us. And at that moment, of course, Todd is like, yeah, I regretted it. High scores be damned. I should have went with him. What does it matter now? The electricity's out and I lost my game anyway. He goes, and this light had a little switch and I was just about to hit it. And I heard that and I thought, the door was closed. So he goes, I couldn't even figure out where I was at. I just knew that was right there by the pinball machine. He's like, so I walked around and I started to try to feel my way. And I said, you didn't turn the light on? He goes, I was terrified of what I was going to see. So I was going to find the stairs and just run up them as fast as I could. So he goes, I did. I just felt my way. He goes, and then I felt this weird cloth-like thing. It was like a tablecloth or something. I was like, what is that? He's like, and I go up and I feel like this weird, rough, I don't know what it was. He was like, it was weird. And I thought, what is that? And then I moved my hand over to the right and I felt the banister. I said, there it is. There's the stairs. And I go around and I kept feeling and I go and I get to the stairs and I run up the stairs. And he's like, and I get halfway and then something puts its hand or something on my ankle and I fall. And he goes, and then when I did, I hit something that was like metal and it flipped and it went over my arm. And I was like, what is that? It was a spoon. And he thought, what in the hell is, why, what is that? And he grabs it and he's like, feels it. And he's like, it's a spoon. But what tripped me? What? And then he hears like scream into his ear. He's like, almost like it's in my mind. Interesting thing. His friends heard nothing. They were just right there upstairs. He said I was almost halfway, probably. He was trying to estimate to me. Chad said the same thing. He goes, my mom and my aunt, they knew that I was locked in there and I was screaming, but they didn't hear the woman screaming. They just heard me. Years later, I found out that my dad had gone into that basement and had something very similar happen. He ran up the stairs. He looks back, and there's a woman there with no legs, just in a dress, floating right there in black, no eyes. And it came flying up at him. And he just covered himself, and it went over him. And then it went up the stairs and came tearing ass around the left going into the kitchen. And he's like, what in the hell is in my house? But he didn't talk to his kids about it. And the kids said, yeah, we saw this thing. And he goes, oh, whatever. And he let them just float down the river. Same thing they did with the werewolf-looking creature in the next house they lived in. It was like, well, it's just your imagination until they see it too. So this creature, this entity, whatever it is, Todd is having his encounter with this thing, but for whatever reason, he steps on a spoon and he grabs the spoon and he's like, and I felt this urge to turn and put the spoon toward this entity. He goes, I don't know why I did. And guess what? This thing shrieked and I saw, because my eyes were adjusting to the darkness, I saw it go across the other side and go down behind the pinball machine and disappear. He thought, what a lucky spoon. I have a magic utensil. I'm going to use this to fight crime. He put it in his pocket and he ran up the stairs and he's like, guys, the devil attacked me and I used this and it
Scared of
saved my life.
spoons. I found the weakness. He hates spoons.
He tells them that. And he's like, and they're literally like eating pizza and looking at each other. And of course, you know,
So you spooned him.
Chad doesn't say anything. He just looks down and he's like, Chad was a cerealaholic. Like he was eating cereal, like Fruity Pebbles, you know, it's like in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter if they're eating pizza. He's like, and Chad's mother was constantly like, son, eat something. Don't just eat that. Okay. And he's like, he's over there pouring the cereal. He's the only one that keeps moving. Everybody else is looking at him. And Corey's like, I told you, man, you shouldn't have stayed down there. And then he looks over at Chase, and Chase is like, that's a spoon. And Chuck's like, and they all just start laughing, and his sisters and their friends laughing. He's like, there's like 9, 10 kids that are just laughing at me, and nobody heard anything. He goes, I took it and stuck it back in my pocket. And then Brooke goes, wait. She goes over there. She's like, what is that? Pulls it out. She's like, this is one of my mother's spoons. This is silver. This is the silverware. That's why they call it that, you dummy. And she like kind of bonks him on the head and takes it and throws it in the sink. She's like, no one's supposed to use that. It goes in the big china cabinet. And he's like, well, got rid of the creature down there, whatever. And Chad's kind of looking at him like, and I kind of imagine him like picking his teeth, you know, he's eating his cereal, like, oh. maybe we got to talk later. I'm going to figure out how this works. And they did. Later on in the night, he's like, Chad did what he always did. He ran upstairs to go get some cereal. And he goes, he's got like 10 different kinds of cereal. It was amazing. It was like a wonderland of cereal. We're eating Captain Crunch, whatever. We're eating Cocoa Pebbles, whatever. Fruit Loops, you name it, Rice Krispies. He says, we go up there and we're eating cereal. And it's just me and him. And Chad says, look, did that really work? And he says, yeah, dude. Once again, you wouldn't need silver, which is something that we figured out when we were young. We kind of knew. There again, the Tartarians, all these different people, they knew things like this, right? I don't know that that's what the civilization was called. That's just what I call it because eventually the name stuck, right? That's what we're talking about. But they understood these things. They understood energy that came out of the thin air because it's in the ether, right? Nikola Tesla, he understood that. Here's the deal. He says, look, I need something to stop her. Todd's like, her? He's like, yes, her. It is a female. She has no eyes. And Todd's like, yeah, I didn't see. It was dark. I just saw a shape. I don't know about the eyes. No, I didn't see that. And he's like, look, Todd. He's like, you can help me. He's like, you come over next weekend. And we'll get spoons and we'll face her. He's like, tempting, but I'd like not to. How about we don't go? Let's just, you know what? It was spooky in the garage, but why don't you talk your mom and dad into like moving back out to the detached garage? I don't want to be down there. And he's like, no, we have to fight this thing. It's either that or build a flamethrower. He didn't say that. But it's funny, right? These are your kids and they're talking and they're like, we got to do something about it. And he's like, no, you got to do something about it. Todd's like, I don't live here, dude. You got to do something about it. And then about a year later, his parents are like, we're moving to another house. You'll love it. No more faceless woman attacking you, grabbing your ankles and stuff. This house is going to be great. It's just going to have a werewolf. What was that last part? It's going to be great. No, you said something. I could have swore you said something after that. What was that last part?
Just go back to your Game Boy.
No, I don't think so. I just said it's going to be great.
You want a new video game?
You're going to have all kinds of ice cream. You're going to have vanilla, chocolate, and werewolf. What? Hold on. You just did it again. What was that last part? Chocolate? I could have swore you said something about a werewolf. A what? A what? Is your mom going to have to choke up? I'm kidding. I don't know what you're talking about. You're acting crazy, Chad. I don't know anything about these things. And if I do, I'm going to ignore it and I'm not going to tell you about it. What do you think I am, a coyote or a pig? They care about their children. Well, good luck. Mama loves you. Good night. Thanks for the kiss on the head. I love you too, Mom. Be careful with a werewolf. What was that? I said, be careful. We have meatloaf. It's in the oven. I love you. I could have swore she said something about a werewolf. No, she didn't, Todd. She didn't, Chad. She didn't. Because you know why? Because your parents didn't care enough to tell you these things. Shame on you, boomers. Once again, look what you did to us. We're basket cases now. Everybody in this country that's on Xanax, it's your fault.
Should be getting reparations from them. Getting reparations from your social security check.
Exactly. This is why the Islamic robots are coming to eat your medicine. This is what you get.
Yeah.
This
The
is what
ISIS
you-
spots are on their way as we speak.
You're in trouble. You shouldn't have done that. Anyways, point being, the next weekend comes and goes and nothing happens. And these kids are very close. They grew up together, all good friends till this day. It's pretty neat. It's unique. And a lot of people my age, I have that too. I have friends that I've been friends with since, I can't even remember. You go off and you do whatever, but you always still talk and whatever. And I can pick up the phone and call them and we're still friends. Here's what I know. Chuck had an experience there in that house. But it didn't happen when he was a little kid with them. Chad had moved out of that house. Some other people moved into that house, and one of them was a very pretty girl named Christina. And, well, Chuck liked her, and Chuck ran track. Chuck played football. He played basketball. He was an athlete. He goes, I played 4 sports, lettered in everything. He's like, I was an athlete. Everybody told me. They was like, yeah, this guy's a tough guy. And Christina moves into that house, and Chuck, her parents go out of town. He's 17, she's 16, and he's like, hey, Christina, I'm coming over tonight. She's like, heck yeah. Let's hang out with my friends down in the basement. Chuck goes down into the basement. There's 4 people down there partying, hanging out. He's like, my life was ruined that night. I'm like, how so? He says, well, they were passing around this cigarette, and it turned out that it was marijuana. I smoked just 1 marijuana, and everything changed for me. I became a hardened criminal.
Every time.
I was throwing pipe bombs into clubs. It was
Every single person who's ever consumed the devil's
you
lettuce.
got to watch Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that the boomers did for us. They're like, look at this. No, you're a dope fiend. Your life could depend on it. You'll know him by his T-shades.
If you've eaten even 1 marijuana, you are now a felon. No exceptions.
He got me. I got
Yeah.
hit by that weaver.
They got him a long time ago. There's just no hope for this one.
He's gone.
I mean, look at him. Jeez.
He's like melted into the chair. He slides down like an egg.
Yeah, he's fusing into it as we speak. He's actually deflating like a balloon.
And he's blurry. Why is he blurry? He's like, what is that?
It's the autofocus on the camera is all messed up
He's all messed up
There
because
we
he's on
go.
that wacky weed.
because it's focused on the back of Shredder's head here. See, and I take him away. Now it's focused.
But you get the point, folks. Like, basically, this will ruin your life. I mean, I could say this. That's not what he said. He told me that there were people down there and they were doing that and they were drinking and they were imbibing. And there was an 18-year-old and 2 or 3 16-year-olds and another 17-year-old, and they were hanging out. He goes, the one person I know how old she was. But everybody was 16 or older. And he goes, I'm 17 and, you know, I'm a junior in high school and I'm hanging out and I'm with my girlfriend. She's a sophomore and she's really pretty. Everybody thought she was pretty. She was really good. He's like, and yeah, we're there in the basement. And then she says, well, hey, you know, what do you guys know about the basement? Because one of the people that was there was Corey. That's his childhood friend. And he's like, well, yeah, we know that our friend used to live here when we were kids. Really? She's like, because this place is haunted. And he's like, yeah, it is. We heard it was. And Corey and him were looking at each other nervously. And there's this other guy from a neighboring town whose sister is good friends with this girl because she was from a neighboring town. They moved there when she was 14. She's now 16. And she's like, what do you know about this? And so Corey's like, it's effed up. And of course, he's got mild Tourette's. I've said that before. He's like, gosh, dang this guy. He's like, I'm sorry, I have Tourette's and I blurt things out. And he's like, yeah. He goes, look, Chuck says, let's not worry about that. That's what they were focused on. He goes, I was focused on trying to get to second base. I'm not into this. I don't want to talk about this crap. I don't want to be in this. Let's just hang out. He said her parents just had like Christmas decorations and Halloween decorations and all kinds of other junk in boxes and all this stuff. And then there were 2 couches. That's it. Nothing fancy, nothing cool. And in between, you know, her and Chad's family, there was another family that had come and lived there and they had moved out. And then she said, Christina, she says, you know, my mom and dad said that the people that used to live here, the dad was from like Sweden, right? Or the mother was from Sweden, right? And the dad was some Midwest farmer and he had retired. He was like 20 years older than her. And so they were kind of odd, you know? And the guy was getting mad because she was telling them, you know, this place has a ghost. maybe a couple. And he's looking at her like, shut up. We got to get out of this place. It's the last thing we ever do. I added that last part. But you see, she was, and he was like, really? What did they say? And she's like, well, it was weird. My mom and dad were kind of like, what? And then when she was telling them, she's like, yeah, my name is Gertrude. I don't know the name, but you get it, right? And she's like, and there's something here. My children have been upset. I just want to tell you, I don't want to sell you a house and you don't know. Who lived here before? And that family, they were like, I don't know. She's like, yeah, because if we knew, maybe we could know what happened. And then the lady left and they never saw her again. But her family was like, if you find out who used to live here. And so she asked around school and somebody said, that guy over there, Chad, he used to live there. And the story is that Christina walked up and was like, hey, are you Chad? And he's like, yeah. And she's like, did you used to live in that big house, a Victorian house, whatever? And he goes, yeah. And she's like, was it haunted? And he's like, get out of my face. And she walked off. So I asked Chad, I said, why did you do that? What was your reasoning for that? He goes, I didn't want to talk about it. And I don't want to be known as the weird kid with the haunted house. I already had people talking about the other place I was living in. And we talked about that in a past episode, and it was freaky what was going on in that other house. He said, I did not want to be that guy. He's like, Chase had talked about my sister being possessed. And I said, yeah, but Chad, didn't you tell him that? He goes, I did. But I didn't want him to go tell everybody. My sister had glowing green eyes, was crawling around like a spider. He's like, I didn't want to be the exorcist kid. So I could understand that. He says, so I told her to buzz off. He's like, later on, I went back over to her by her locker and I said, hey, man, I'm sorry for that, but I just don't like talking about it. And she's like, that's fine. Closed her locker and walked away. You know how women are. It's fine.
I'm okay.
You totally destroyed my world, but I will survive.
It's fine. It's fine.
As long as I have a trapper keeper, I know I'll stay alive. And while they're singing this thing in their head, they look around, there's nobody in the hallway. It's just them and you're late for class. Just know that's what happens because you are the main character in your own story. And nobody cares. We've all been there, except for dudes. But here's the thing. She's distraught. And she says, look, I've seen this thing that comes out of the wall. I've slept down here. She goes, one night, about a year ago, I was down here. I was watching TV. And I woke up and the lights were off and the TV was off. And I had fallen asleep with the TV on. So I was over there watching MASH reruns, And I heard this kind of noise. She was trying to do it. And then Chuck goes, I got freaked the heck out, dude, because that was the same noise that Todd had said that he heard, that Chad had heard, that Brooke had heard. Brooke had heard it but didn't see it. Todd really didn't get a good look at it, although the silver spoon seemed to make it run away. He said, I was freaked out, dude. And I looked over at Corey, and Corey's sitting there, and he's like drinking his drink, all like, well, what's on you, dude? It's your girlfriend. And she goes, let's go upstairs. And he goes, okay, what's upstairs? She said, let's go to my bedroom. He goes, okay, yeah, let's go to your bedroom. They get up to the bedroom, and he's, Chuck is thinking, wow, something magical is going to happen. Maybe I get to second base. No, he gets up there and she's like, look at this photo album I have. And he's like,
oh, scrapbooking. I love scrapbooks.
He's like, cool. So he's like, I am visibly aggravated. I start doing the pages. And that's me at the swimming pool. Mm-hmm. That's me, blah, blah. And that's me, volleyball. And that's me, and then we're horse ranch, blah, blah, blah. He's like, blah, 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 blah. Rubbish, rubbish, rubbish. He's like, I'm done with this. Cool. Fantastic. So, and she's like, what? Did you see? And he's like, see what? And she's like, Oh my gosh, that's why I brought you up here. It's like I thought you were different. I thought you were a listener. You said you were a listener. He's like, oh, you know what? I am. I'm so good at listening. I'm like the best. And what were you saying? This is why I'm so sick of boys. She's like, in that photo album, if you open the photo album and you do something besides just turn the page, you will see that there are spirits all through that. And he's like, all I could think about was Todd coming up and going, I defeated the devil with a plastic spoon. Oh, wait, it's not plastic. It's silver. It's metal. It's what I don't care if it's lead from China. I don't care. And I'm like, I did see them. I wanted to know if you were going to point them out to me, if you remembered which ones. And he's just like, you're a terrible liar. Okay. I admit it. I didn't look at the freaking ghosts. He says, right when I say that, they hear on the wall. And he's like, and she's like, you see what I'm talking about? This house is haunted. And he's like, why are we whispering? And she's like, because it can hear me. It can hear me. He's like, it's a ghost. It's probably right next to us. She jumps up. How do you know this? Are you psychic? No, I'm just trying to talk to you. That's it. That's what I'm here for. I thought that's what we were doing.
Just trying to be a good listener.
So then he goes, okay, look, he grabs, this is what he told me. He says, this is crazy. I grabbed the photo album and one of the pictures slides out. And she goes, look at that photo. Okay. He picks it up and he's like, what am I looking at? It's you in a Halloween costume. What is that? You're holding a pumpkin? And she's like, yep. It was last Halloween. Look what's standing behind me in the darkness. And he's like, oh, whoa. Okay, he drops it on the bed. Yo, what the heck, man? Why? What is that? And she's like, yeah. It's a Polaroid. He's like, I see that. What is that? He goes, yeah, that's the woman. That's the thing with no eyes. She's like, I talked to your friend, Chad, last week. And he's like, yeah. I told him what I saw. He did not tell me what he saw. He said he didn't want to talk about it. Chad saw it twice. And the thing did not just stay in the basement. It would come up the stairs and it would do things in the house, like slap the walls and do crap. And they would hear scraping at night. And nobody knew what it was until his oldest sister, still a kid herself at that time, walks out and sees this as a young teenager and sees this thing going like this across the walls, mouth open, no eyes, black pits, and then just catapult towards her. And then she runs into her bedroom and she hears the scream and nobody hears it. You know, the pocket reality that we talk about. It's real. She's like in her bed crying, covering herself with the pillow. Like that's going to protect you. It's not. And then she hears it walking. Why does it make footsteps? Well, let me think about it. Probably for maximum fear effect, right? She hears a shuffling of feet going towards her bed. And she sits up and screams, go away from me. Leave me alone. And then her parents wake up. What the heck? They run into the bedroom. Dad comes in there. You know your dad. He's always scratching himself. It's cold. What's that musty smell? And he's like, oh, what is in this bedroom? Did something rotten in here? The mom's like, stop. Go back to bed. She's hurting. Sits on the bed with her. Okay, I'm going to ask you this one time, sweetie. Don't make that awful noise again. Good night, and leaves. I could get up work in the morning. What's wrong with you? Screaming like that. There's a banshee in my room. Sure there is, honey. It's right over there with the Easter Bunny.
I believe that you believe that.
I believe that you believe they have Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy. Good night. No, but it was about that bad. He basically said that I said, what did your parents say? And Chad's like, I don't know. They just kind of said, we'll go to bed. Man, whatever. Got a long day tomorrow, chopping firewood. So what happens? What happens to these kids, right? They don't know what the heck they're doing. What is this? All they know is that their house is haunted. And now he's got a Polaroid, this girl that he was dating in high school. And Chuck says, what in the hell is that? She's holding a jack-o'-lantern. Her friend's smiling and her brother's smiling. And there's this thing behind them. Like, he said, you could see it. It was in the picture. It was right there. And he's like, and I'm like, dude. He's like, after about an hour of her just talking and telling me all this horrific stuff, he goes, and I got to be honest, I don't remember all of it because I was terrified and I had to pee. And he goes, I had a couple of beers and I'm a teenager and I needed to not be drinking. I know that, but I couldn't hold my liquor very well. And I said, look, I got to go to the bathroom. She's like, well, it's right there. Go ahead. He goes, I know where it's at. She's not getting the hint. He's a tough guy. He don't want to go to the bathroom by himself. But, I mean, he probably should, right? He's a tough guy. He's trying to impress her. He goes, well, I'm just going to go to the bathroom by myself because I'm a man, and that's what we do. She's like, okay. It's going to be over there. If you need me, just yell. I'll come running. And unless you're scared, you can go with me. You can come with me and stand in the hallway. She goes, no, I don't like it in the hallway. It's creepy. No shit. Okay. So he says, okay, I'm going to go to the bathroom. He said, I opened the door. It's dark as hell. And we're far up. We're on the top floor. We're way away from the basement where everybody's at having revelry and whatever. And he's like, I'm looking both ways. It's like a child when you're a kid, you're trying to cross the street, making sure that Mack truck doesn't come out of nowhere. All right, go in the bathroom. He's like, I'm angry and resentful at this point. I'm like, this woman cannot take a hint. I'm scared. I just saw this creepy picture. I know the stories now, and I'm scared, and I go to the bathroom. He's like, I ran to the bathroom like a baby. He's like, I'm a big jock in school, right? One of the toughest kids in school, man. I hang out with this clique of jocks. That's what he was. He admitted me. He told me I'm a jock. And he said, then, and what did I do? I run to the bathroom like Scooby-Doo, like Shaggy, like Fred and Vilma, whatever, right? Velma. He goes into the bathroom and he's like, can I use the bathroom? And I'm like, just, the relief of having to go. Getting it done. He goes, and I'm standing there. And I hear something behind me. And I hear the shower curtain moving. And I'm like, what the hell is that? And he's like, and I finish my business. I turn around. The shower curtain's moving around. And I hear noise in the tub. And dude, I wanted to. I said, dude, why didn't you just run out? He goes, I wanted to. I wanted to just run and grab that door and run out and run back into her room. And Christy, as they called her, she was waiting in her bedroom. Not far, just kind of diagonal to her room. But something is in the shower and it's moving the shower curtain. I'm backing up and it's making it more and more evident that there is something there. And he's like, I don't know what compelled me to do this, but I decided I'm going to be brave. And I'm going to open that shower curtain and I'm going to face whatever demon is on the other side of that shower curtain. And he goes, I'm psyching myself up like I'm getting ready to pole vault. He's like, I was like, did you pole vault? He goes, no, I tried it and I broke and I never did it again. Too big. I did it just to impress a girl. And he's like, I was girl crazy. And he's like, but I was ready. I was like, I'm ready. Like SpongeBob over here. He's like, I reach for the shower curtain, and when I do, there's this explosion at the bottom of it, and this thing comes flying up out of the shower and jumps past me and boom, runs to the door. He goes, it was on 4 legs. And I was like, what was it? It was a cat. It was her cat. She had like a 4-month-old kitten, basically. Big sucker. It was already getting big, and it was fluffy, and it was like, and it jumps out of the. But the question was, why was it in the bathtub? What was it hiding from? He goes, I felt like it was hiding from something. He's like, and my heart was beating so fast, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. And and I was a big guy, but I wasn't out of shape. I was muscular, a big dude. And this cat was struggling to try to get out, clawing at the door and hissing, and its hair was up on its back. He goes, and I knew there was something on the other side of that door, but that cat was freaking out. And of course, she cannot hear what's going on. She doesn't react. He goes, at this point, I'm like, you dumb person. I'm in here in the bathroom making all this noise. He's like, and so I said it loudly. The cat's name was Casper. And he's like, hey, how appropriate. Casper, calm down. Calm yourself down. Loudly, calm yourself down. Christy's cat in the bathroom, needing to get out into the spooky hallway. Nothing. He's like, I hated her at that moment. I goes, I hate you. I hate you. And I hate everybody.
That's what she hears.
He's like,
popping all mad.
Door. Well, I guess we're done, tough guy. Since you hate me.
Hold on. Say what? What'd you say? Oh, that's what you heard?
Huh?
He's like, what was that? I didn't say that. The cat did.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Cat is possessed. So he opens the door. Casper runs out. Black and white cat. Even kind of looked like a ghost. And you get this. The eyes were black. And there was black on the head. He was a weird looking little dude. Like he was wearing an upside down mask. And he's like, dude, it was weird. He goes, and the cat freaked out. He goes, and I opened the door and I was like, good thing it was just a cat. He's like, and then I walked out into the hallway and guess what? And I was like, what? He goes, nothing. Nothing happened. I walked back to the bedroom and I sat down in the bed and I was like, your cat scared the crap out of me. Like that cat was freaking out or what, and she was looking at him like kind of puzzled. And she's like, wow, my cat. And she's like, he goes, yeah, Casper, the cat. And she's like, we don't have a cat. And he's like, yes, you do, because your brother, James, told me that y'all had a cat. You called it Casper. She's like, no, it's a ghost. That's why we call it Casper. He's like, oh. He said he felt like he had been punched in the stomach. And I said, did you throw up? He goes, I almost did. He goes, I felt like it. I stood up, dizzy, and then I sat back down. And I was like, he goes, and all I had to eat that day was ramen noodles. And they sit on your stomach. I said, yeah, it's wax. Don't eat it. It's bad for you. And he's just like, I just saw the cat. And she goes, yeah, it was white and black. He goes, yeah. She goes, yeah. That was the lady that lived here before. They had a cat that went missing. We've been seeing it because my mother called her one day and left a message. She didn't respond. But then she texted back and said, yeah, we had a cat. The name wasn't Casper. We don't know the name of that cat. We just called it that. And he was like, I was dumbstruck. He's like, you have some weird stuff going on in this house. He goes, you know what? I'm going to leave. Get the heck out of here. I don't want to be here. So, what do you do in a place like this? What can you do? There are places that exist that we don't understand. We can't figure out what it is. We don't know why it is the way it is. It just is. And he's like, this was weird. He goes, this is time right before cell phones became a real big thing. People had them, but it was very rare. It was like mid to late 90s, right? And he's like, and I'm just like, I'm ready to go. I don't care about second base or third base or home runs. I don't care about anything. I just want out of this house. He's like, and I walked out of that room and I started to go down the stairs. I get down to the bottom of the stairs. He goes, and this was the last time I ever sat foot in that house. I turned around and I saw her at the top of the stairs and she just kind of waved. And he was like, goodbye. He walks out onto the porch. He's like, and I get out toward my car. I had a really nice car that me and my dad had worked on for years. He's like, and I turn around and I see this face in the window looking at me. He's like, and it was a woman, like a female. You could tell it had hair and it had no eyes, and the mouth looked so weird. I don't know how to describe it. He goes, it was just horrific. His exact words to me, horrific. And Chuck was like, I had endured some things. I had seen something in Chad's other house. But in all the years that we played in that house, he goes, I never saw it until I was almost an adult. And I went out with Christina. Like, I'm not going to say her last name, but, you know, you get what I'm saying. And he said, I got in my car and I drove the hell out of there. He said a few years later, before he was going into the military, he said, I was driving by that house. Christina no longer lived there, but we were starting to date again. And we both decided to join the military, and that's where we split up. The recruiters lied. You'll be together. They weren't. He's like, and she went on to be with this other guy who was an Air Force mechanic, and I did what I did. The rest is history. And he's like, I drove by that house, and me and her were talking. We were kissing. And I got to say, she was really my first true love. And he's like, and I thought, this is the one. I'm going to be with her. He's like, and we looked, and in that house, we both looked and we saw a glowing ball of light. And moving around, it was empty, it was vacant. It had been for a while. And we were like, what is that? We were dumbstruck. It was like a yellow ball of light. And we just drove off. I drove off. And she was like, just go, just go. She had nightmares inside that house, and they began to call it the witch house. Everybody had bad dreams when they were there or out of there. Rick, what a loser. I'm calling you that, Rick, actually. But anyways, scary place. You had the witch house and the werewolf house, and he's like, dude, that whole town was jacked up, man. And he's like, I went on to go in the military, and then I met my wife and got married and whatever. He goes, years later, weird thing. He's like, he gets a call from his friend, his old friend Chad. He says, hey, man, what's up, buddy? He said, we still talk every now and then. And he's like, haven't seen you in a long time. I heard you were, doing good and whatever. I'd like to come visit you sometimes. He's like, at this point, I'm living in Tennessee. And he said, we're going to be going through there in the summer. He goes, and our kids are about the same age. They're a couple of years apart. He's like, and we have families. And he's like, and him and his wife were going through a divorce. It wasn't good. And Chad said, yeah, we were going through a divorce. But then something happened. We went on a road trip. We went on a road trip from Michigan all the way to Florida. And we stopped everywhere. And it worked wonders for our marriage. And we started working it out. And we visited all these haunted places. He's like, I developed a weird fascination with the paranormal. And he said that when he was in Tennessee, he goes and he visits Chuck. And he tells Chuck. And Chuck eventually, at that time, he was in Tennessee, but he moved back to Michigan later. But and that's when he had the experience of the Manistee Forest. But he says, I visited Chuck. Chuck ended up being single eventually too. But he said, we talked and we reminisced. And for 2 days, we just hung out and we drank the hardest liquor I'd ever drank. Chuck's friend was a hillbilly who made moonshine, and we drank it, and it was like turpentine. One drink and you're nearly blind. He's like, and we talked and we joked, and Chuck, he said Chuck told him, or Chad told him, he said, dude, it was the scariest time of my life up until I moved into the other house. Not a lot happened after that to Chad, but everything happened to these guys. And they began to talk, and they were like, why does it happen that way? Why is life the way it is? Why? And I said, why did you not tell your children? Did you teach them about what safeguards them? Chad was like, what is that? I said, Christ. You have to make everyone around you aware. In the Bible, it tells you to preach the word to every living thing. Do we do that? Because you don't know who's listening or who's capable of comprehending. So it's better just to tell everybody. Profess it, confess it every day. Christ is King. That's the best policy every day. You plead the blood of Jesus over yourself, your house, your belongings, and most importantly, your family, your friends, your pets, everything. It's an easy thing to do, but we forget to do it. Taking a shower is one of the basic principles of modern life. Maybe in the past, in a bygone era, not so much, but now it is important because we have access to clean water. Why wouldn't you take advantage of it? And still, people will go to the office and smell terrible, and you're like, what is that? Somebody smells like Burger King in here, You're just sitting there going like, so I was working with this guy years ago, and he was a sales guy. I used to know him, and he's passed away, whatever. And I remember he worked out all the time. And he comes into the office, and he was like, oh, crap. I forgot to put on deodorant. He's like, and in fact, I took a shower early, and I forgot to wash under my arms. Because it's a simple thing. If you were to overlook that, something that you do every day, as I do, basic cleanliness, and you're a guy, no bueno, dude. Guess what? By lunchtime, you're going to need to go wash your underarms. You're going to need to go take a bath because you're a dude, especially if you're a guy that works out regularly. Two things happen when you work out. Not only do you sweat and you smell, but you get more testosterone, which makes you smell even more because you're more, your hormones, and you're more of a man. So this guy, he worked out all the time, and he was very upfront. He says, guys, at least he's self-aware about it. He says, guys, I gotta go. And we had a woman that worked in the office at that time years ago. And she comes in and goes, oh man, you guys. And I'm like, hey, you guys, this dude. And he's like, sorry, I'm going to go, he took care of it. Oh. And later we were eating lunch, excuse you. And later we were eating lunch, and he was like, I'm sorry, man. He was apologizing. He goes, dude, I just so tired. And he goes, it's crazy how a little thing like that, just something small, forgetting to do. And then if you forget something else, it compounds it. And the next thing you know, well, you smell like Burger King. And that is exactly how it works with the demonic. You forget something small because God, Christ, the Holy Spirit, well, that is the soap that cleanses the soul. It gets these parasites off of you. It keeps them off of you. It keeps you fresh, clean, and safe. But sadly, we forget. We overlook it. We run out of the house We don't even care. We don't thank God for the day. We don't thank him for anything. We don't think we're driving around in our car going like, I got to get something to eat. I got to go run to the insurance office or whatever it is you got to do. Or post office, whatever. I got to go mail some stuff off to the listeners. What about God? Did you forget? Bang, you're in a wreck. I don't know how this happened. What if you're targeted and all they're looking for, like Abe C is always says on his show, Spiritual Encrypted Encounters at night, he's always on, you have that spiritual opening and they fire those fiery darts at you. They hit you in the Achilles and you don't even know you've been hit. Evil. And you didn't bother to ask God for protection. You didn't bother to thank God for the day. You didn't ask him for forgiveness for your sins. You didn't plead the blood of Jesus over everything. Something happens. And then you know what people do? Well, I don't know why this happened to me. I don't either. What did you not do or what did you do? Did you leave the house cursing at somebody? Maybe your spouse or your friends or your neighbors, or who you arguing on the phone? Put that away and say your prayers. We don't even teach our children this. Think about it. Pigs and coyotes, vermin, essentially, to the ranchers and farmers of Texas and many other states. I was talking to a friend of mine who's in Georgia, good friend of mine. He's telling me about all the destruction they did to his neighbor's land. He's got to know what to do. These hogs are out of control. I said, we've been trapping them for years. I said, that's the problem. I said, every time you miss, whichever ones, they will never be trapped that way again. They teach their young. Them and coyotes, they're very wily coyote. They're very wily animals. You're not going to trick them. Yet we can't teach our own children to thank God, to pray every day. I hope you hear what I'm saying, and I hope you do that. I'm not here to try to trick you into doing anything. I'm here to tell you need to do it. You need to pray. And when these entities come with no eyes and whatever the heck else they have going on, hopefully you're prepared. Don't go into that day or night unprepared. I hope and I pray that everybody listening heeds my words. I really do. Because we all live in a haunted house. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and if you were sensitive to it or not. Because some people can go their whole lives, say, nothing's ever happened to me. You've had a ton of things happen to you. You just don't recognize it. Because I've talked to the most hardened skeptics and I'll ask them, did this happen to you? That happened to you? Well, yeah, but I could explain that because, well, the rotation of the earth created a weird spherical shape from the sun and the moon, and that the light came moving and screaming. Science. Indeed it is. Yes, very scientific. Yeah. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to get back to my 8th Heineken. You've got it all figured out. The Earth and NASA and space. Right? Discovery Channel. You got it going, man. That's how you can explain. Nothing ever happened to you, ever, and it never will. Nothing. I want nothing. Or are you just making excuses for yourself? Because it makes you feel safe. It makes you feel better to think that, well, those kind of things don't exist. You don't stand on the porch and get attacked by a werewolf, do you? Something dog-like. You don't go into the woods and, well, you don't see Bigfoot. You don't drive down a lonely highway in Arizona and get abducted by beings from beyond. And you damn sure don't live in a house where a woman with no eyes is screaming at you, or a former resident in the form of a cat, a friendly feline, playfully known as Casper, desperately trying to get out of a bathroom in the most physical way. That doesn't happen, does it? But it does. And it happens a lot. And I hear about it all the time. There were others that I looked up to go along with these cases. But sadly, we're at 2 hours and 15 minutes and I have to go. You've entered a world where dumbasses don't believe in anything but this damn effing cube that we call it the why not zone. Why not? Anyways, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of what makes PRT PRT. You, the listener. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of weird things out there. A lot of weird things, more than we could possibly know. And even though it's comfortable to not believe and think that things don't happen, well, some people just don't believe until it happens to them. And when it happens to you, well, remember what I said. Ounce of prevention, pound of cure, your choice. We love you. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Thank you to everybody who donated. Thank you to everybody who renewed their memberships. Get your membership renewed because we're getting back on track this week. We have a full slate of things going on. Tomorrow night is Monday night. But here's what we're going to do. We screwed up. So last week we did not do the Patreon. So tomorrow night we're going to do the Patreon. On a Monday night we're going to do it. We're going to do the Patreon. We're going to drop it like it's hot. We're going to Nevada. And we're going to talk about Bigfoot and the nature of reality. Creepy, scary Bigfoot story coming at you on the Patreon. If you're not a Patreon member, go join up. You're going to be glad you did. Because not only are we doing it on Monday, but we're doing it on Tuesday. Tuesday is going to be the members only. So get your name in green and get ready because Tuesday we're going to do the members only on YouTube. And then Wednesday, we're back at it. We're going to talk about some stuff. And guess what we're going to talk about on Wednesday? I have a little thing called a Wendigo story, and it's Wendigo Wednesday. I thought that would be cool. Put it on Wednesday.
Rolls off the tongue.
Wednesday, Wendigo, Wendy's. Wow.
Windows.
Windows and other W's. Okay. Okay. Because I drop it like it's hot. Okay. You don't? I do. I drop it like it's hot. You must be the other guy.
Just put the fries in the bag, sir.
Can you imagine that? The Wendy's.
Yeah.
You're up there like, you're like, this isn't it for me. Okay. I got to tell you. Fresh, never frozen. Now, we've had many of our stores shut down because of health violations, but here we've only had 10. Okay. And we got them fixed. Most of them. Some of them. One of them. Okay. Enjoy your chili. They're just like looking at you the whole way.
I just wanted Frosty, man.
I actually didn't order the chili. They look in the bag. Baked potatoes. Weird ass. They grab their kid. Get away from this guy. Is he wearing those horns on his head? What's wrong with this man? Freaking weirdo. Can you imagine that? I get so bottomed out, I have to go to the Wendy's and work. Yeah, I would be a dick. I would just walk up and be like, welcome, Wendy's, what do you want? Can you imagine? They'd be like, yes, I'll take a triple, double, chuple, something combo. what is the burger that everybody likes? The bacon
Baconator.
Baconator.
I take a quadruple baconator with mayonnaise, with lots of mayonnaise, and I'm just gonna be pushing buttons and go. You wanted mustard, extra ketchup. What was that? That's not what I said, young man. I'm not really young. I'm 50, and I'm angry, and I'm working at Wendy's. Just point at the menu and I'll put something in a bag and give it to you. It might be something great. It might not be. It's just, we call it gambling.
It's all slop. And if you cared, you wouldn't be here at Wendy's, sir. Let's
We
just be
call it
honest.
what's up.
You want me to put it in a blender for you? I can do that.
They just pull up here.
You know what you should do? One of these guys I worked with years ago in this burger place called Shortstop, he got mad at a customer. So he took a grease ball with all the flakes from the burger, you know? So it kind of looked like a patty, but in the middle it was all gooey and just grease. And he slapped it on some bread and gave it to this guy. And this guy, we had this little patio right out front, and we watched. And this guy ate like 3 bites before he figured it out. First bite, he was like, like it was good.
Wow.
And he ate another bite, and then he's like, "What? What is that?" It's all grease squirting out of it, like just white congealed grease. And then he comes going right back up to the window. And of course, this is in the hood, bro. Guy I worked with goes, "What? What?" And then they start like fighting right there. And it was more like wrestling, tearing each other's shirts off. And then the manager's like, he looked like Urkel, I'm not gonna lie. He goes, "Can you get out there and stop him?" And I'm like, "No." And I kept watching. I could have. They weren't really big guys. I was just like, "No, I'm not getting paid for that." He's like, "Well, I'm gonna call the police." I said, "Call them. I don't give a shit. What do I care? I'm getting paid like $6 an hour. I don't give a shit. What do
I
I
have burgers to fry here. I don't care.
I got things to do, man." I went back and, did the one reefer. Messed my brain up forever.
And
I
laid
come
out
back
on the
out
grill.
like Tally. I'm like, "Can I take your order?" And they're like, "Tally, I mean Wolf. Once again, you were talking to the shake machine." "Oh, okay. I have no idea what's going on."
Oh, he's not hungry?
Pretty much. Pretty much. That was my career at Shortstop. A long, illustrious career of 4 months, 5 days. And then there was Taco Bell. But that's another story. That's for another day. We'll see you guys. Thank you for listening. Good night.
Seeking power over those that oppose me. Unspeakable crime, murder at midnight. A deal I made, a life I had to take. Someone I loved once held so tight. The screams will follow me. Cries of my ancestors said, "Go away." My operation, fasting in grain, shape shifting. I feel the animal hide. Inspire me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. We are one but not the same. This form I desire, innocent blood I will devour. Ancestors gathering round the dwelling, the spirit inhabiting, evil enveloping, the dancing graves in the night, the spirit occupying and transforming, stolen heights, dark practices, my secret life, feathered outers, mysticism, intriguing, my operation, fasting in grain, shape shifting. I feel the animal hide. Inspire me. I feel the change. I feel the change coming. all part of the dark creation. My desires performing incantations. I walk in disguise. If I catch you, it's your demise. Shamanism, my religion, summoning spirits, manifesting myself and changing my flesh. A nightmare to behold. I'ma make you part of the fold. The skin of a man, the soul of a predator. The change is complete. This thing I become, my flesh has succumbed. My offering, fasting in brain, shape shifting.